Alrighty, guys. Howdy. We are now live. We're going to be going and doing the show real quick. How are we doing? Excellent, excellent. So I know we're starting a little bit late. We're supposed to be starting at 8:15 p.m. I had kind of an interesting day, and we'll go into all the details of that to kind of get everybody on board. But let's go through some of the basics first. This is where I currently work. This is Disability Resolution PA. I've been working there for 8 or 9 years now. It's a disability law firm. And then here, spaceconstitution.com, I'm just waiting for my 501c3 stats to go through, and then I'll upload the new website additions and changes, and then we should be good to go. Now, today I want to go ahead and focus on three topics, actually. Topic number one, what President Biden's going to be doing specifically with raising Social Security benefits. Number two, why most disability attorneys are not taking people to the appeals council level and above as much as they used to. And then number three, I want to talk about basically my experience with the COVID vaccine and go into that. But let's take the first call and get things rolling. Hold on. Hi, this is Attorney Walter Knott. We are live on YouTube right now. Remember to use a fake name. Can I go ahead and answer a question for you? Or can I go ahead and basically, hold on, I'm just getting the phone worked out here. Or can I go ahead and run some hearing questions with you?
I have a question.
Okay, let's go through it. How can I help you?
I was awarded Social Security disability back in September of 2020.
Okay.
And I have still not received my Social Security disability back pay. And I have been through the court system, through the judge for almost 5 years. And so, but my disability did start in November. Why does it take so long to get the disability back pay? And why is there no department to tell you when and how you can get it?
That's a really good question. So a lot of claimants that are unrepresented or have advocates run into that problem quite a bit. There is a group that you speak to. Are you SSI or SSDI?
SSDI.
All right. So SSDI, have you figured out where the payout division is? Because it's not your local field office.
I was told it was in California.
Okay. But
although I live in Oregon.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing. Like a lot of SSDI people that get found disabled in Florida, it'll be like Jamaica, New York, or it'll be like someplace in Ohio or wherever. And that's part of the problem. Now, were you represented by an attorney throughout the process? Went to a hearing with you, etc.?
Yes.
All right. So that. Yeah, that attorney should be able to provide you with the fee payment group in California. And what you're going to do is you're going to call them, because the attorney fee group usually has the ability to reach out to and ties directly to who's paying you for the claimant, like payment for the claimant. So, I'm sure your attorney hasn't been paid as well. I'm sure your attorney's sitting there going, what the heck?
No, my attorney's been paid already. In fact, my attorney told me to contact my congressperson.
No, you don't need to. No. So they were paid, which means that they've already established the 25% provision. Mm-hmm. So they know exactly how much they need to pay you. We already know now that there's no like weird little statute or you did something wrong and now it's going to be lessened. We know what the amount's going to be, correct?
Correct.
That's a fee payout group. That's all that is. All right. So that attorney, I guess he can't provide it. All right. So what you would have to do is, and I don't have the phone number for that group because I don't usually deal with them when it comes to slow payments. You're going to call your local field office and ask for the specific. Well, no, actually, no, I wouldn't do that. What I would do is go to the regional office for that particular state and then reach out to them and have them give you the specific number for the payout group. Hold on. Let me find that real quick.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. No problem. And that's going to be over in, I'm a little slower when it comes to California because I don't do their claims all day and night. I have a chunk of them, but I don't seem to run into as many issues as I do with the Florida claims or the Georgia claims. Oh, Georgia claims all day and night have weird little issues. Here we go. San Francisco Regional Office. All right, I'm going to go ahead now. Are you watching me live on YouTube? So if I put up an email there and a phone number, you can grab it from there?
I'm watching. I don't know if it's live. Let me see.
That's my little doggy in the background. Yeah.
I'll just go to your.
Yeah, pop over there. If you can't, what I'll do is, and I'm throwing the stuff up there right now. But
yeah, I'm saying I want to subscribe. I've been subscribed for a while.
Okay.
But it's not showing any live screen.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is, and I've got a tiny little baby doggy over here that's giving me hell. I think he just wants a treat. Yeah, he's a little monster. He bit his snuggle monkey, which is Sweetie, today. So he got in trouble. That's right. And then he was forced to go outside, which he hates because he likes to live in his little cave under the bed. So let's see. Yeah. All right. Let me see if I can find specifically San Francisco Regional Field Office. I want to get you a phone number, and they've been doing this with their websites. They've been basically, taking away contact information over and over and over again, and it really annoys the hell out of me because they're making it so that people can't get a hold of the different regional offices. So let me see what I can find here. Yeah, right here. Okay. All right. Now, where's the phone number? Contact information, area public affairs staff. Hold on. There we go. All right. I'm going to give you a phone number real quick. It is 877 700 4882.
Okay.
And then let me give you their email. It is EDITH period RUIZ dash
RUI.
Yep, RUIZ dash CISNEROS at SSA.gov.
So CISNEROS.
It's CISNEROS. And that's one of them there. Let me give you a couple of more. That way you can call through to see if you can get somebody specifically. And these are from the public affairs specialists for educating the public. But they should still be able to go ahead and give you a phone number that redirects you to the right group. Because I literally can't find. They give you, and this is what they do. They'll give you an email. They'll give you a PO or an address, but they won't give you the phone number anymore. Just like a fax number. The other email I want you to try out is sf.rpa@ssa.gov.
Okay.
And then let me give you one more to try out. That way you're good to go. Okay, right here. I'd like you to give the phone call to 888-256-3394. Extension 27201.
All right. Thank you so much. I mean, I've been all over the government websites for phone numbers and access. I've called everybody, and all I ever get is, well, if you haven't received your payment in 60 days, they can no longer hold it because it's illegal. Well, it's been longer than 60 days.
Yeah,
and that's the only information I ever get.
Well, here's what usually happens in these situations, just so you know, is that they'll usually mail out a check or they'll mail out a direct express card. It'll somehow get stuck somewhere. It'll somehow be one of these situations where you just, you know what I mean? You can't, unfortunately, you can't get it. Somebody else grabs it and they either do an illegal act where they try and cash it, or, somebody will get the card and just throw the mail out. So, there's always that situation too. But what I would say is this, the pay division people, they're usually pretty good, but they mess up, here and there. And, the SSA, the last time I did an accounting, We did an audit of how much money they owed the law firm. They owed the law firm over $100,000 in claims that they never paid us. So, you know, it's not. Oh yeah, no, it's not good. But what I would say is this. I'm just going to go ahead and get some treats real quick and throw them to the dogs. But what I would say is this. That should get you rolling in the right direction. If it doesn't, call back next week, and then I'll go ahead from there and give you additional information as to who you can talk to. But ultimately, if you can't get your funds, this comes down to a situation of talking to the general counsel on behalf of the SSA, because, you know, the inspector general rather, because, you know, ultimately you're due those funds, you know.
Right.
So that's something to kind of consider. If they can't handle it as the regional commissioners to get you to the right person to pay you, then the next person to go to is basically general counselor on behalf of the SSA.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you very much. That's more information that I have gotten since September.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry your law firm didn't help you with that, you know, but I hope this helps you. And don't forget to, I'm not sure how to deal with this, but leave 5 stars however you can. And I can always shoot you a text later with how to do that, because they really help me compete against the big box firms.
Okay, I will do that.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
You too. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Oh, Wolfgang, I got to check on that thing. Send me another email on that, because I forgot to work on it. I know I received it on like Friday or something, but the whole payment yada yada for the $25 to help out. Send me that again, because I haven't had a chance to work on it. I've been stuck doing tax stuff left and right. Okay, guys, I want to talk about the first thing here, which is of the 3 topics that I want to go into today. Number 1, what is Biden doing with raising Social Security benefits? And this is very, very, in my opinion, extremely important, obviously, for you guys, because you're receiving benefits, some of you, and some of you are looking to obtain benefits. There's a couple of acts. There's 3 main acts. And my main concern is that there will be taxation without representation. Now, I know you guys hear that phrase from history books, and you're like, well, you know, what is taxation without representation? Taxation without representation is where they pass a tax law that does not specify what those taxes are to be used for, which they do here and there. And I want to make sure for something as large as this, you know, because remember, if they tax you and they call it something else and it doesn't fall under one of these regulatory Social Security yada yadas, then we run into the situation of they're just getting more money to play with as a government, as opposed to money that is earmarked with a purpose, which y'all really need, because the Social Security trust funds are running dry very quickly due to COVID. And then the other issue is this is the first year since the 1930s, the history of this whole thing starting, the Social Security Administration system, that the entire system is going to cost more than it produces in the taxes it brings in. Now, surely we could have all had them invest this money into brands and stores and things like that in the United States that are proven products, instead of a bunch of green technology products that failed under the Obama administration, some of which were then sold, unfortunately, to China as companies. So the problem we run into is we could have, back in the day when we had a surplus, we could have invested that into technologies and products that the American people use and want and sell abroad. We didn't do that. We didn't do that at all. We put it into new technologies, and while that's a good idea for the future, it's not a good idea for a long-term program like the Social Security Administration when you're looking at investment capacity. So as a result of that, now we have a program that can't afford itself, which is weird because Social Security benefits are the ultimate. It's the biggest Ponzi scheme in the entire world. If you take the entire earth, the largest Ponzi scheme is the Social Security Administration, which is pretty interesting. All right, so let's talk real quick about the main thing that I think Biden, he's drawing from this in a major way. So the 2100 Act, so the Social Security 2100 Act is basically the idea of charging people, taxing them a bit more, which nobody's really excited about, to go ahead and essentially, making it as simple as possible, allow the programs to have more money in a trust fund sense for an extended period of time, to take us, and the whole idea is to take us to 2100. The idea is to also expand benefits, increase benefits, if you will, to allow people to have a slight increase. Everybody's like, hey, we're all getting $200 a month. No, that's all clickbait crap. Yes, Biden, they have the sound bites of him. Yes, Biden said, hey, I'm going to go ahead and I'm all for this whole raise, Social Security benefit too. But remember, that wasn't his whole gig. Even though he pushed that out there and put that out there, that wasn't his gig. That was Warren's gig. If you had all, essentially voted for Warren, you would, during the 2-year period during the coronavirus, have had a $200 increase per person, not a continuous $200 increase. I want to make that clear. A lot of people are like, oh, it's forever. No, it was just for a 2-year period during the coronavirus. So, yeah, Kenny Lynch, you're not totally out of. So here's kind of the bottom line here. It's going to be a slight increase. There's going to be a taxation on everybody. And the problem that I'm seeing here is inefficiency, right? So here's the future of this whole program. They're telling, let's take the younger people, right? They're telling younger people, well, you need to pay more. Even though it should have afforded itself and we spent money on our own and we may have done some bad things legally, politically with the funds that were saved for people, even though we should have been more careful and more efficient with these mega super funds, right? Even though we should have done that, we didn't. So now they're saying to the younger people, younger person A, you're going to have to go ahead and pay more in taxes. That's the whole point of this Social Security 2100 Act, which is not a big amount, right? What I would prefer to see in it is that it increases, but then it is gotten rid of. Those increases are gotten rid of after a certain amount of time. Because, with a lot of these acts, they'll just increase, and then they'll get to a plateau. And then once we get to that plateau, the politicians will say, oh, we need more money. So I'd like to see it increase, but then those increases be wiped out after a certain point. Because otherwise that means that they're not making a better, more efficient system, which they are able to do with technology in a massive way. Remember, the SSA didn't have, 6-7 years ago, they didn't even have digital fax, which is mind-boggling. Maybe a small division, but the major divisions, the local field offices, they were running on a lot of old gear there. They just put in today a new system for the hearings group, which didn't work. I had a hearing that was 45 minutes late because they couldn't get it to work until they brought in a different person with a different profile. But they just put it in a new telephonic hearing system because the main focal point here is they want to do most hearings in the future as telephonic hearings. All right, so here's kind of the bottom line. There's going to be a tax increase, and that tax increase is going to slightly increase your benefits. But you've got a problem here. They're telling young people you need to spend more with the Social Security program, but have the expectation that you're only getting 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, whatever percent it'll come out to be, about that much of the amount of Social Security you were supposed to be receiving, as if you were an older person nowadays who is receiving retirement, receiving SSDI benefits. So what they're saying to the younger generation is, which is why a lot of younger people aren't going to want to buy onto this. Well, to be honest, a lot of young people don't have any idea what's going on with this. They don't care. You can manipulate them mentally based upon what the news is doing. But the bottom line is this. They're telling them, look, you need to spend more so that maybe we could pay you what we're paying older people now. Maybe not. We may have to pay you a smaller percentage. That's what this is all coming down to. So, and that's the thing too, a lot of people, single payer, we look at basically, what if people could opt out? The problem is the biggest Ponzi scheme in the world, you got to feed the monkey for it to continue. And that's the sad thing, is that there's been so much government inefficiency. There's been some borrowing of funds from these trust funds that should have been unconstitutional, that we're now at this point where we don't have enough money to fund things the way we should be able to, which means we have to print more money to cover the caboose to keep the whole thing moving forward on the rickety road with the rickety wheels. So that's what we're looking at here. Now, I want to go through really quickly Social Security 21. I want to go through what the fact sheet has in it, just basics. I know I went through it in one of the videos, but I just want to go through it in a little bit more detail. And then I want to go straight to part 2 of this whole thing. And this is important to me because I want to talk about why Social Security disability attorneys are doing less and less appeals council claims, which means like you get a denial at the ALJ and they're not even interested in taking you to appeals council. So we'll do that one next. Social Security 2100 Act. So this is the act that Biden wants to go ahead and use as the playbook for essentially, taxing people to have enough money to afford Social Security benefits through 2100. Okay, number one, increases benefits for all current and future Social Security recipients. This is straight from their fact sheet. Cuts taxes for almost 12 million seniors. Ensures the system remains solvent for the rest of the century, which is actually the whole point here. Like those first two are like, the cutesy, like the sugar coating, but the whole point here is ensures the Social Security system remains solvent through the rest of the century, hence the whole name, the Social Security 2100 Act. All right, let's go to the big things here as I feed my dogs because they're spoiled. Benefit bump for current and new beneficiaries provides an increase for all beneficiaries that is equivalent to about 2% of the average benefit. The U.S. faces a retirement crisis and a modest boost. You hear that? A modest boost. A modest boost. Whenever you hear the word modest, what that means is not much, right? Whenever you hear that, it means not much is going to happen. Not much is going to change. So, you might get this whole thing and be like, wow, this is incredible. This is amazing. And then your Medicare will go up or your food stamps will go down or whatever. It always does the balancing gig, and I'm fully aware of that. Let's go on to the next one. So that is equivalent to, okay, so the U.S. faces a retirement crisis and a modest boost in benefits strengthens the one leg of the retirement system that is universal and the most reliable. So when we say modest, we're expecting itty-bitty boost. We're not expecting a $200 increase. Remember, we're talking itty-bitty money. So let's see. Okay, next thing. Yeah, and I see the comment here, stolen and gambled. So Polo Lover said stolen and gambled and lost all on Wall Street, then turned around and bailed Wall Street out with their tax dollars. I don't know how detailed that is, but I thought it was very interesting that they went after that one Chinese-based bank in New York, which was tied to all of that. I don't know if you saw that stuff. Next thing, let's see, Walter Pratt Jr. Trump put $3+ trillion of the Social Security system into a fund for the rich and only the rich. It is Article 965 Patriot Fund. I'll have to check that out. I haven't seen that. I don't think Trump was a huge fan, for obvious reasons, of the Social Security system. And during the past couple of presidencies, the number one rule that hurt Social Security disability applicants the most came out during the Trump era, which was that basically the Social Security disability rule of weighing evidence as to how much it was worth. They used to give, obviously, priority and heavy weight to the evidence of, your seeing physician. But now, based upon the logic of, well, you're not always just seeing that one doctor. You've got all these other different doctors. Oh, now other physicians have the capacity, like their CE doctors, which you see once, to have similar equivalency to your doctor, which is terrible, terrible, terrible. Yeah, honestly, I can't even think of it. The last 3 presidents we've had, anybody that supported Social Security. I can't think of the past 15 years of commissioners that were pro Social Security benefits for the people. So next one, protection against inflation, improves the annual cost of living adjustment COLA formula to better reflect the costs incurred by seniors through adopting a CPIE formula. Now look, we all know, and everybody's bitched, and we all have complained, and we all got this. The whole COLA calculation is a slight miniature increase. $10, $15, $20, $30. But then the increase of living is in the hundreds. It's 100, 150, 200, 250, 300. This, I don't think, is going to correct it to that level, but it's going to get us closer to the reality of how much this is actually going up per year. Okay. This provision will help seniors who spend a greater portion of their income on healthcare and other necessities. Improved inflation protection will especially help other retirees and widows who are more likely to rely on Social Security benefits as they age. All right. So, what they're trying to say here is that the COLA, cost of living adjustment, will go up, right? More accurately with how it actually works. More accurately with how it actually works in the market, right? But let's be honest here. I read to you in that prior video that I just released, the most expensive states to live in. I read to you in that video the most expensive things for seniors. they're not going up 10%. They're not going up 15%. They're going up 150 to 270%. These are things like medication costs, Medicare costs. These things like housing costs. Everything's going up by hundreds of percent. And it's not going up by 10%, 20%, 30%. It's going up by hundreds of percent. So what you're going to see here in the near future is a mass crisis. The crisis is that all the young people are going to have to somehow Ponzi scheme magically afford the old people. And all the old people, their cost of living, medication, and medical treatment, boy, it keeps getting more and more expensive because the medication is getting better and they're charging more because of it. The dollar significantly devalued over the past couple of decades. And let's call it like it is. The general therapies, surgeries, and other treatments that they're doing, it's a lot of money, right? And they've got some nice Medicare plans in there and some options. And they'll be able to tie into those. This system is almost parallel, linear, mirroring the other system of basically like the job system. Remember when, all right, I'm cutting her off after this treat. I'm just going to throw her outside, guys. But remember when basically jobs used to offer pensions? And, remember when these jobs used to offer all these, amazing this and that. And, like when you look at if somebody worked for the railroad, they were set. They were totally set for an extended period of time. Their retirement was a good retirement. Somebody did the military, right? Long-term retirement was a good deal. A lot of benefits. There's hardly any companies out there that are actually offering pensions that are, you could use whatever word you want, but maybe compensable for your situation, maybe realistic. A lot of these pensions that people offer now in these, sweetie, just take it. Just take the food. I put it right there. You have to go out. All right, guys, give me just 2 seconds, 30 seconds. I'll be right back. I got to go ahead. I see somebody's calling in right now. I gotcha. I'm going to get you. I'm just going to put the doggy outside. Thank you, Pissed Off Man. We got to catch up, too, because I need some help with the web stuff. Pissed Off Man, I'll be right back. Hold on. Sweet, come here. Sweet, come here. All righty, guys. Thank you. We're back. Pissed Off Man, I got to catch up with you about web stuff and maybe get some help from you too, because there's so much stuff that has to be done with this channel. And this channel, as you guys know, is translating away from this firm into more of like a how do we help people channel. Now, there's another thing too, and I got to find it. Now, if somebody can link it up there, I'll do it later in the show. There's a gentleman that I donated $25 to who set up a GoFundMe. If you guys could check him out, he needs some funds. He's about to lose his house, and 20 cents, 30 cents, whatever would make a difference towards him. But bottom line is this: I'll throw it up there a little bit later, the link. What's happening is people are earning less. The SSA is selling the idea of taxation at an even higher level, which means you'll have less at the end of the day. It's not much; it's only slight, but a higher taxation on people. Specifically, they're promoting the rich, but that's just going to seep into the lower as it gets to legislation time. We all know that. And the idea is that they're promoting that there's a major problem where these trust funds are going to run out. They are. I did a video on it, and I've noticed that if I do a video and I mention basically the name Trump, or I mention certain things about the trust funds are going on, that all of a sudden the videos become demonetized, except for those who pay the monthly fee for YouTube. So in the future, I may have to hold up a card and go ahead and just use that as like the signifier that says this is Trump, because honestly, I've noticed that those videos are just getting demonetized. So it's not good. We are having obviously an extreme version of restrictions when it comes to freedom of speech, obviously. So that's another whole big thing. And trust me, I have friends who tell me all the same. Why do you care so much about your First Amendment rights? And I think they're idiots, and they are. But it is what it is. America's filled with individuals who don't understand the constitutional basic background as to why we have these rights, or how they sell people as fanatics who want to have a gun when the whole country was formed based upon the ability to have one. But I'm going to be doing another video, and this is a sidetrack specifically on what firearms disabled people should be able to purchase and which would be the most helpful for them based upon different disabilities. So like if somebody's in a wheelchair versus, somebody who basically has to use crutches, what would be the best firearm? Because the world is not getting safer, as you guys have realized. So let's go back to the Biden thing. We're now going to read some more. Protect low-income workers. So the next thing on the Social Security 2100 Act is to protect low-income workers. No one who paid into the system over a lifetime should retire into poverty, which we all know a hell of a lot of people are retiring quite literally into poverty. Okay? The new minimum bet. Now let's review the wording there, because that was carefully crafted. Attorneys will go ahead and do this stuff, and attorneys wrote this. No one who paid into the system. All right, so somebody's paying into the system over a lifetime, meaning that they've been working their entire life consistently paying into that system. Not just people who were, what we're screwing over here are the mothers who had a child and couldn't work for some years. What we're screwing over. That's what this sentence is getting into. Now, I have to go in and read the specific things so you can understand exactly what they mean by that. But this is a blanket statement, was carefully crafted by attorneys. No one who paid in the system over a lifetime should retire into poverty, right? And they define their poverty standard as a certain financial amount. Next thing, the new minimum benefit will be set at 25% above the poverty line. So we want people to be 25% above the poverty line. That's a good thing. That's a very good thing. And here's why. A lot of you guys are sitting there getting, I get this check and I get this check and I get this. I get my railroad check and my military check and my disability check or my retirement check, whatever. A lot of you guys are sitting there going, I got a lot of cash coming in from all these different programs. Life is good. But some people are sitting there going, I'm getting $800 a month. What did I do wrong? You can't live on $800 a month. It just doesn't work. I mean, you could use it as a supplement if you already own a house and you're with somebody else who has money coming in and you're just paying for basic stuff. Maybe then you can do it as a supplemental. But, I know some people that are making it on $250 a month, but they have other people with them or they're homeless. That's the bottom line. So to live on $800 a month is ridiculous. Even when they're promoting the idea of universal basic income at $1,000 a month, I'm not even sure that's enough. Now, then they started to sell it as, well, it's a supplement on top of whatever else you could earn. Yeah, okay, but we can't even afford our disability, our retirement programs, our AUX benefits, DAC benefits. We can't even afford a spousal or widows. Can't even afford any of these. Okay, so I see Cat's Meow put an AK-47. I don't know. I'm kind of an AR-10 guy, but either way. Point is this. Let's keep going on it. The new minimum benefit will be set at 25% above the poverty line and would be tied to wage levels to ensure that the new minimum benefit does not fall behind. Well, wait a minute. So, all right, we're tying it to wage levels. And we're getting a better COLA analysis, right? Cost of living adjustment analysis. So their whole thing here is to tie it to a poverty standard and then use these other indicators to raise it from there. Well, if we just tie it to this poverty standard and keeping the poverty standard going up, we should be able to just keep it 25% above that. But then I got to ask you something. 25% above the poverty level, a quarter above the poverty level, is that really where we should expect people to be? And I understand we don't expect people who have paid into this system their entire life that worked low income jobs. I understand that we don't expect them to have a yacht, a property on the water, a property on a mountain, a mile long driveway. I get that. But at the same time, do we really expect them at 25% above the poverty level to be getting what they deserve as part of the American dream as for their retirement? Think about that for a moment. All right, let me walk you through this real quick. The American dream started with the idea of just being able to buy some sort of property with a crap trailer or maybe just a wagon on it, right? It was a wagon that you could live on, but that was the American dream, to own a piece of property. Then it grew and it became, a house with a garage, and a TV and a color TV and a two-car garage. Then we get to the 80s and it gets wild, right? Then we're seeing all these luxury brands, ridiculous waterfront properties and all this crazy yada yada. And that's when the American dream blows up. But let me tell you something. What happened then in the 80s was important because it's important to this whole thing for an advertising purpose with the whole 2100 Act that they're trying to push here and Biden's pushing. In the 80s, people could start to see the rich and famous in a live sort of way, right? So before that, we would see early James Bond films, the rich and famous in a controlled environment. But then in the 80s, we got to see them in like a sense of this is them in real time. We got to see new luxury products. They weren't just chateaus from the olden era, where it's just a couple of earls and dukes had them. These were just people who were captains of industry that sold creams for your face. And lo and behold, they were able to afford all this stuff. And what's interesting is that there was a photographer back in the day that would actually take pictures of people in front of their estates and these magnets of industry, right? Creating these immense magical things. Wow, they had all this money. So my point to this is, it was the 80s when we start to see things take off for people having expectations of what the highest level of ownership would be and them expecting and wanting to be a part of them. And let me tell you a little bit about that. People in the 80s, so in the 70s, people were happy. They were happy with their two-car garage in their house and the little community and yada, yada. And HOAs hadn't gotten out of control at that point. They were happy in their communities. But it was the 80s that happened that made people want a heck of a lot more. That's when we started to see mass greed. Greed isn't illegal. It's not necessarily evil. It's something that people use to get themselves from point A to point B. But I will say this, the 80s, there was mass population greed. And what happened was you started to see people basically creating the structure where the employees were getting significantly paid less. You have a hierarchy of just the top people making the most. It was a different business model. Now, during the 80s, that's when we also started to heavily invest into other countries with the purpose of mass production. And because of that changeover and selling things over to other countries to start mass manufacturing them, etc., we then started to see the great new America of services, but not manufacturing of products. Now, you can blame the companies, but the reality, let's call it like it is that if they didn't do this, if they didn't send the business overseas, then the problem is they would have gone out of business because somebody else would have made the product and they would have sent it overseas and they would have made it cheaper. What America did to China with setting China up for mass production with manufacturing is what China is doing with Africa to set Africa up as its main source of product manufacturing. So China will become a service industry to America, and Africa will become a manufacturing industry to China. And that's kind of the whole thing that's going forward. Matt Marshall, all I want is free beer. It's a good man right there. That's good. I catch one of those in the things every once in a while. I love it. So here's kind of the bottom line, guys. You tell me, you let me know, you received a $1,200 check, you received a $600 check, you received a $1,400 check that was supposed to be $2,000, but hey, wiggle on that one. But you received all of those. Did they make a big difference in your life? Because in the scheme of things, that's not that much money. It's just not. It's not that much more money, Jay Barnett. More wine, please. It's professional right there. So my point here is this. After getting your 1,200 and your 600 and 1,400, right? After getting all of those, did it make a big difference? Let's go and keep reading, but think about that for a moment because, that's like lump sum versus itty bitty increment. Cut taxes for beneficiaries. Almost 12 million Social Security recipients would see a tax cut. And then, of course, there's a little sub thing there. Presently, Social Security benefits are taxed if a person's non-Social Security income exceeds $25,000 for an individual or $32,000 for couples. This would raise the threshold to $50,000, $100,000 respectively. All right, so what we're talking about here is just who's going to get taxed. And what they're talking about in the news is that, okay, the rich are going to get taxed at the higher rate, and we're going to raise it, and then there's a little bubble in between, and then all this stuff, and yada, yada. Here's the problem with taxing the super wealthy, which is what they're doing right now. They're trying to attach that to this. The problem with taxing the super wealthy is that the super wealthy will just change wherever they put their home address and where they can be taxed and who's going to actually get their tax money and who's, and where the money is going to be sent as a foreign company and yada, yada. Until they change the corporate tax law, which would help pay for all this stuff. Apple Computers got in big trouble for that. They didn't get big trouble. Their response at first was, we are doing nothing illegal, right? And Apple Computers, remember back in the day, was like, we're the little guy trying to fight the big guy, Microsoft. But now they're the huge guy. They're the biggest guy. And now they're sitting back going, oh, well, even though we have, we send the money over there and then we send it over there and that's where it gets taxed, yada, yada. Even though they weren't paying the full classic American tax for corporate industries, their response was very telling, which was, we haven't done anything illegal. What's interesting about that is that you get Trump in there, and Trump changed some of it, but he didn't change the major things. And when they came up under different senators to change the major aspects of those tax laws, the crazy thing, the corporate tax law, is that the senators voted it down. But is it crazy? Because who pays for those senators when it comes to re-election? You're going to be seeing, and this is a side note, a lot more individuals on YouTube running for political office. Meet Kevin is one of them. He's running for the governor of California. I highly support that. I am all for that. I think that's a great idea. There's so much corruption going on in California that you couldn't put it in a book. You couldn't even write a single book worth of the corruption going on there. So I think that's amazing. I think that's a really great thing. But you're going to be starting to see YouTubers running for office and winning because they are accustomed to being in the public's eye. And the government, once they get into it, everything that's wrong, start posting. And they're going to make sure they pass laws to make it just, like Florida. Everything's in the sunshine. You can see everything, which is good. So we're heading in the right direction with the future of politicians. It's not all going to be back rooms, secret clubs, and secret societies. And I say that with love from my heart because all warranties and yada yadas here. I am a 32nd degree Mason, and I got to tell you, I think the people would be a lot happier if they had access to the information as it was being decided, as opposed to what the final decision was as it was posted on the website. Let's go to the next one here. All right. So holding SSI, Medicaid, and CHIP beneficiaries harmless ensures that any increase in benefits from the bill does not result in a reduction in SSI benefits or loss of eligibility for Medicaid or CHIP. This is one of the most important things for poor people that they're going to be doing in this 2100 Act. And Biden should support this very heavily because of this. This is saying, okay, guys, yeah, I'm a Mason. Howdy, Pistarfman. Okay, you knew that. But yeah, so I'm a Shriner, and I'm the Winter Park Lodge. I'm super tired today, but the bottom line is 32nd degree. I did my Blue Lodge over at Orlando 69 Lodge, right off of the highway there. All right, so with that said, yes, Meet Kevin is awesome. I think he's going to do a great job for California if he can get people to basically vote for him, which hopefully they will. All right, so yeah, you will get more as a migrant walking to the border today. That's true, actually. There's some of the funding that they're getting is above and beyond what an SSI recipient would get. So what they're saying here is holding SSI, Medicaid, and CHIP beneficiaries harmless. This is part of the 2100 Act. They're saying, look, if we increase your benefits here, we are not going to allow your other benefits, your food stamps, your Medicaid, your whatever, to drop, right? We're not allowing those to start to disappear. So, no, I'm not an Illuminati member. I'm not that important. But that group in its own different forms does, there's subgroups within the main group, and that's how that works. So, there's Knights Templar, there's all that stuff. All that stuff is, they all have subgroups as part of the appendant bodies of Masonry. So I don't even know if you guys know how Masonry works, but you have to start as a Blue Lodge member, entered apprentice, fellowcraft, mastercraft. Then once you finish those levels, you can move to different appendant bodies because you've then earned your right as a master Mason, and then in the Masons, you can't basically, as in the olden times, you can't travel from one, country to another because the rulers wouldn't let you back then, unless you had become a Master Mason. Once you became a Master Mason, you could travel, and that whole idea is that you're traveling to pendant bodies, which is all just basic stuff, and that's all out there at this point, so it's not really a big deal. But the whole point is, there's the Shriners, there's the York Rite. There's the I'm trying to remember the other one. Anyways, I'll look it up real quick. Let me see which different types of ones there are, because I keep forgetting the one that's the Winter Park Lodge. Hold on. I'll find it, guys. Just give me 1 second. I gotta find the darn thing. My brain's just not working today, which goes into the final thing I want to go into with you guys, which is the whole. Anyways, I'm sure there's a Mason watching. Help me out, guys, in the comments. It's not the York Rite, it's the Scottish Rite. There it is, the Scottish Rite, 32nd degree Scottish Rite. That's what I'm in there. And by the way, guys, it's not as, what Masons mostly do is they just go ahead and do donations to schools and donations to the Shriners Children's Hospital. So I saw Freemason on Netflix. I haven't seen that. I don't know if they did a show on it or whatever, but the bottom line is, I was telling Cheyenne, you need to go ahead and interview a bunch of us, and we can always give certain information. We can't give other information, but I'm willing to go ahead and help you out. Ken, Act of Kindness, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I really, really appreciate it. Nice. Jews in Jesus' name. Perfect. Very good, good sir. I appreciate that especially. This is very good. All right, let's go back to the trust fund. But again, thank you, Ken, Act of Kindness. I really appreciate that. So here's the thing. This act intends to be a police doggy that's sniffing out problems with COLA, the cost of living adjustment. And then at the same time, it's making promises that the low earners, like SSI, won't lose their other benefits or have reductions in their other benefits, while charging everybody a little bit more, while increasing everybody slightly, while basically protecting the trust fund as it exists until the end of the decade. Now, I know what you're thinking. Is the math solid on this? Who the heck knows at this point, because the whole mathematical equations that they utilized for this were pre-COVID. So it's not right. It's not good anymore. And in fact, the main reason why Biden hasn't come out with an updated version of this, as he said with his online, was that he wasn't able to get the legislators to figure out, to get it all together to create a new body of an act to go ahead and present, which is just a modified version of the Social Security 2100 Act. That's the whole thing there. But it's got to be modified based upon the financial issues they're facing right now. And they're trying to pass new tax provisions, which are a little bit scary, guys. So remember, it's not the IRS that's a bad group. It's the politicians that are trying to, finagle and change and yada, yada. So, because remember, the IRS is what funds our military. It's what funds a lot of our things, our massive, massive SSA accounts, all that stuff. In fact, they're the ones who fund the SSA. When Commissioner Saul had to go ahead and disperse those $1,400 checks, he said, ring, 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 IRS, you better pay us to do this extra work. So they have to go. That Social Security commissioner has to go to the IRS and the directors there and say, you got to pay us. So who has all the purse strings? It's the IRS. Okay. Which isn't a bad group. That's how we pay for stuff. It's just the politicians and how they weaponize it. That's the problem. All right, let's go through Social Security 2100 Act strengthens the trust fund. So here's another thing that kind of supports what Biden wants to do with the future raising of benefits for people. Have millionaires and billionaires pay the same rate as everyone else. So here's what you're seeing in the news. Presently, payroll taxes are not collected on wages over 132,000, which is actually higher now. It's around 140 something. 132,900. This legislation would apply the payroll tax to wages above $400,000. This provision would only affect the top 0.4% of wage earners. Now, look, there's a problem with this. I know a lot of you guys are thinking, well, why aren't people who earn over $400,000 taxed on that money so that I can go into the Social Security system? Why the heck are they so lucky? And here's why. They do not reap the benefits at paying at that higher level. Because remember, they're running into a glass ceiling. They can't make over a certain amount in return for what they pay into the Social Security system. So they're basically just paying a massive amount of tax that does not assist them in any way. And the problem is when you do this, you start to send rich people to other countries, or you have them set up shop in other countries. So this is going to have a negative effect on rich people using their money to create future businesses and yada yada that pay taxes in this country, that pay personal tax in this country. So don't think just because we're going to attack the rich people here that there's not going to be some nibbling little shark that comes after us with this. There's going to be a piranha that takes a bite out of us in the long run, because the rich people, when they're taxed, and I don't know if you guys know how this works. Imagine $400,000, right? So you earn $400,000, and then you earned another $400,000 on top of that. That $400,000 on top of it is getting taxed for the Social Security system, that they will never be able to tap into any of the benefits of those. It just won't matter because they'll already be making the max out of the system that they could potentially make. So just keep that in mind, that little percentage with what you earned is a really big amount with what they earned. So just keep that in mind. That's something you've got to watch out for. That's something that's incredibly important. All right. So that's something that sounds good. It feels good, but it's not something that's going to help us in the long run. It's only going to dig us out of a small hole while we're sitting in a much larger hole. Because the truth is, we need more immigrants to increase the amount of work product we make as a country. And we need more rich people to create businesses and fund products of the small people that come out with ideas. Okay. So that's, unfortunately, those two economic principles have never died. And unfortunately, coming out of a crisis such as COVID, we are going to need some great economic principles to back us. All right, let's check out the next thing. 50 cents per week to keep the system solvent. That's how they always sell it. All it takes to save this puppy. All it takes to free Willy. All it takes to pet Flipper. And I'm dating myself a little bit with the shows I like to watch. If you don't know, Flipper is a dolphin and Lassie is a dog. And Flipper was smarter than Lassie. All right, so here we go. 50 cents per week to keep the system solvent. It's only cost you, the American people, 50 cents a week. Wow, thank you, Pissed Offerman. Yeah, absolutely. Just call me tomorrow, because Mr. Pissed Offerman, I've literally been doing tax stuff and accounting, and it's been miserable. And I have to tell you guys a little bit about the whole vaccine thing that I've been going through as well. I was actually in the emergency room today. I cut the little thing off my wrist because I cut the little wristband off my wrist because I didn't want to show that. But I'll tell you a little bit about that and what's going on. 50 cents per week to keep the system solvent. Gradually phase in an increase in the contribution rate beginning in 2020 so that by 2043, think about that, 20 years. So by 2043, workers and employees would pay only a mere 7.4%, shipping included, instead of 6.2%. For the average worker, this means paying an additional 50 cents per week every year to keep the system solvent. What a deal! What a deal! But now let's pick it apart and let's go after it. Shall we? We shall. Here we go. Let me blow it up a little bit. Here we go. Now I can see it better. 50 cents per week. Gradually phase in an increase in contribution rate beginning 2020. So we got 20 years here where they're going to increase the 6.2% to 7.4%. But remember, that 50 cents that they're selling you on, shipping included, that 50 cents and a warranty for 3 years, that 50 cents that they're talking about, and let's read the important language, 50 cents per week every year to keep the system solvent, but that's only a proper calculation, otherwise a shitty calculation. That's only a proper calculation of 50 cents more per week, which remember, okay, 50 cents, $1, by the end of the month, $2. So now we're talking about $2 a month. That's only for the average worker. That's not for people who are paying in a heck of a lot of money. It's not. It's even cheaper for the people who are paying less. But once again, we're relying very heavily on the super rich to bail this whole thing out. If you took out that 400,000 plus provision, the one we just did, the whole thing would fail. It would not work. They're hoping on a lot of money from that system. I know a lot of you guys are sitting back going, you know what? We charge the super rich a little bit more, but it's not a little bit more. It's a lot more. Because think about that percent increase. Now think about that 7.4%. Now they didn't used to have to pay a tax of 7.4% on earnings above $400,000. So let's say they earned $800,000. That means $400,000, right? So they earned $800,000. Here's the new tax right here. They're taxing now this amount that they didn't tax before at 7.4%. Let's get a calculator real quick. Let's have some fun. Let's do some basic math. So if we have $800,000, right? We multiply that by point, so it'd be 7.4. So we're looking at 0.074. That would equal almost a little. It's $59,200. But that would, I mean, man, guys, that's big money. That's a chunk of money right there. That's like almost 60 grand. So my point here is, all of a sudden, that 50 cents a week, hey, that's a good deal. It's only going to cost the average worker 50 cents a week. Is now looking, and okay, let's go back to the calculator real quick. Let's go back to the calculator. One moment. Let's enjoy this. Boop. Here's the calculator. Let's do another math. So we knew it was almost 60 grand for rich people earning $800,000. That was being taxed on top of what they didn't used to have to be taxed on. So the rich people are losing 60 grand if they earn $800,000. Now let's go over to this. So we've got 50 cents. We've got $2 a month. We got 12 months. So it's $24. Hey guys, it's only $24 for the average worker to keep us solvent. Well, it's around $60,000 for the rich people per month or per year. So you see the issue here. Now I know a lot of you are going, well, the rich people don't really care about 60 grand. That ain't a big deal. But let us check again. Let us run the numbers again. We bring up the calculator. Let's say the person earns, let's make it real, $5 million, right? Let's make it easier math. They earn $5,400,000. So, right, we reached that $400,000 limit, and then they made $5 million above that. So let's put in 5 million, right? So let's see. We got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 0. We got 6 zeros. We got $5 million. Cool. Okay, good. Now let's multiply that by let's see, 0.074. Okay, good. You know how much that is? Any guesses? Anybody? That's $370,000 in taxes that a rich person earning $5,400,000 would now have to pay on top of it. Do you really think the rich are going to stick around? They're not. Do you really think they're going to stick around to pay for all this extra stuff? And I have proof that they won't. I have undeniable, absolute, definitive proof that they won't stick around. It's called New York. It's called California. And don't get me wrong, New York's a cool place. Don't get me wrong, California is one of the most beautiful places on earth. But they won't. They won't stick around. They're going to end up moving to Texas. They're going to end up moving to Florida where they get a better tax deal. And that's exactly what these super rich will do, except it won't be moving from one state in America to another state. They'll be moving out of the country. And the reason they're going to be doing that is because they don't want to spend the money to pay for all of the little people. But the little people are the ones that work for them. So shouldn't they want them? Yeah, they should. They should want the little people to want to go ahead and be supported. But you know how these people are when it comes to millions of dollars. It's never enough. It's just never enough. You know, one person has a beautiful house. Well, they've got 10 beautiful houses, and they got to pay for those 10 beautiful houses. So, yeah, exactly. A significant, ridiculous amount, right? So 370,000, you got close with 400,000. All right, so let's talk about this. Now let's go to the final notation that they put here, and then I want to switch topics to something a little bit different so that I can walk you through this stuff. All right, so the next one, Social Security Trust Fund established. Social Security provides all-in-one retirement, survivor, and disability benefits funded through the dedicated FICA contribution paid by workers. There are technically two trust funds, Old Age and Survivors, OASI, and Disability Insurance, DI, which we actually call SSDI, and that are usually referred to as the Social Security Trust Fund. This provision combines the OASI and DI trust funds into one Social Security Trust Fund to ensure that all benefits will be paid. So what they're talking about here, I know it sounds great. We're taking basically Godzilla and we're taking King Kong, these two trust funds, and we're now combining them. Because that's going to fix our problems, right? We're going to take this trust fund and this trust fund, and we're now going to combine them. This is a bad idea because this opens up more opportunities for them to sneak in provisions to take funds that were necessary for certain programs. They're selling the idea that if we just take these two trust funds and we combine them, then it'll make sure that this trust fund can carry this one a little bit, or maybe this trust fund can carry this trust fund a little bit. Well, wait a minute, guys. Wait a minute. Why can't we make these mega multi-trillion, trust funds just work on their own when they're already specified to specifically work for a particular area of benefits? Doesn't it make more sense to have pots of gold that are fed, that are given things from certain taxes, and then those things pay for certain things, as opposed to having a mega pot of gold that people can somehow work their little way into? We want to keep the trust fund separate. We do. We want it on a public policy reason. We do. We want the trust funds to remain separate so that we can watch the legislation and how it affects the specifics of each one. When you combine all these trust funds together, it's not going to fix the problem. You're taking two big problems and you're combining it into an even bigger one. That's the bottom line. That's the bottom line. So there are good things with this act and there are bad things with this act. Now, I want to make one final note, and this is incredibly important. Do not let President Biden go and, I don't know what he's going to do, but do not let him go ahead and pass these new taxes without passing this other law as to where those new taxes will be paid to. Think about that. He could set up the taxes. He could put the taxes ready to go. We pass the law. The government collects the taxes, but then where do they go? What's the purpose of it? Don't let them tax you. Taxation without representation. Don't let them tax you this extra amount without a legislative document that's passed into law saying where those tax dollars have to go. You don't let them get away with that because they do that sometimes. They will tax you extra and then not specify exactly where they have to go. And where do those funds end up? You know where they end up. They don't end up in your pocket. And that's another thing that's really interesting. Think about it, guys. We can now print 3D houses. We've mastered building, but we're not going to build a lot of new places for these homeless and low-income people if the cost of wood is so high, if the cost of concrete is so high, if the cost of aluminum is so high, if the cost of steel is so high. So what have we created? We've created a maximum crisis. The homeless aren't going to be able to get new funding for new buildings because we can't afford the building supplies required to do it. I called up for a marine piece of wood, 2 inches, so it's 2 inches thick by 12 inches wide by 16 feet long. It was $100 per board. That used to be like $12 per board a year ago. Think about it, guys. Think about what's happening in the sense of a larger picture here when it comes to Social Security benefits. Where are the impoverished going to live if we can't build cheap housing? Right? Cheap housing is made out of wood. It's not made out of block. It's not made out of metal. Cheap housing is made out of wood. If we can't afford the wood to build the house, we can't afford to house the poor. That's a problem. That's a huge problem. All right. I want to now go on to, and we've talked about heavily teak. We're not going to be able to afford teak wood. Teak wood would be like, and I have teak wood, and I bought a lot of teak wood from Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace, and it's on the dock right now. And every year you got to upkeep it. Otherwise, it does last forever, but it gets ugly real quick. Yeah, FEMA camps. That's right. We're going to put up. Let me just help you out. The new marketers. or rather, no, sorry, pinch runner, FEMA camps. Do you know how expensive those specialized tents are? The government-based military tents, the government-based tents set up to save people and this and that, the tents that can withstand certain wind. Those tents are anywhere from $50,000 to $200,000, and sometimes even above that. I mean, at some point, we got to ask ourselves, and a lot of people don't realize that. When I went to go buy these aluminum stairs, they're like these little. I talked with a guy. He was super pissed about the whole pipeline thing because he was a trainer for doing the pipeline stuff. And the bottom line, we had a safety trainer. Bottom line was he was like, I don't think people realize, but when they talk about tents, the government doesn't buy Walmart tents. Those don't hold up, nearly long enough to be able to house people. The safety problems. No, they're spending $30,000, $100,000, $200,000 on specialized heavy-duty tents. Now, are they great tents? They're incredible tents. They'll outlast some houses. Not an Airstream. Some houses. Those Airstreams, those things just last forever unless a tree falls on them. But the bottom line is this. Yeah, Walmart, last I saw, wasn't too happy with their conversion into FEMA because they had to shut them down and create all that new system and infrastructure. And so I don't think Walmart's going to be doing tons of that going forward. But the bottom line is this. Those tents, that's big money. That's not little money. Those government tents, extremely expensive. You ever get a chance to look up the cost of those? It is mind-boggling. All right, I now want to talk about the next thing. The next thing is most Social Security disability attorneys are not going to want to take claims for disability benefits to appeals counsel. You have initial filing, denied, appeal, reconsideration, appeal, ALJ hearing. That's where you go in front of that judge. And then you have appeals counsel. Initial filing, reconsideration, ALJ hearing, appeals counsel. So here's what you need to know. Appeals counsel, right? That's where you go to appeal the claim, to go back to the administrative law judge, or just get a decision right there, or get a denial there, right? Get an approval, denial, or remand. So here's the thing. What the SSA judges are now doing is that there's a one-tier agreement that attorneys have for a fee agreement, and then there's a two-tiered fee agreement. The one-tiered fee agreement is where attorneys get paid $6K up there, 25% up to $6K, and that basically once it hits $6K, it cuts it off. Well, attorneys don't want to use that when they go to appeals counsel, because when they go to appeals counsel, that $6K limitation can disappear with a two-tier fee agreement. So here's the bottom line. What happens with that is this. At that next level up, a lot of when they remand it, so let's say you go to appeals counsel and the AAJs, the appellate administrative judges, remand it back down to the ALJ for a new hearing. Well, what happens then? This is what happens. Let's say I get an approval. Those judges at the ALJ level are not happy that you just appealed their claim and got it remanded, got them corrected back down to the ALJ level. That's because their bosses, the AAJs, just said, hey, ALJ, you screwed up. I'm remanding it back down to you. So what the ALJs are doing is they're saying, well, what we're going to do is on these two-tier agreements, we can decide what the attorney gets paid. We can decide. So all of a sudden now, you win a claim in front of that judge, they're going to pay you $4,000, not the $12,000 you were supposed to get because of all the time it took to go to appeals counsel and get remanded back down. They'll pay the attorney less than the $6,000 that they would have gotten if they had just won it at the hearing level. So what's happening is a lot of these attorneys are not taking claims to appeals counsel. A lot of these attorneys are not doing two-tier agreements. They're just keeping the one-tier agreements. But that means attorneys know that they're only promised, even if they go through all of that higher level appellate stuff, $6,000. And $6,000 for a law firm that has to represent somebody for years is nothing. It's far too costly. So they're either going to have to raise up what attorneys make, right, from 25% up to 33% like every other attorney, because basically disability attorneys in the legal field of finances are basically second-class citizens. We make 25%. We don't make 33%. PI people, you ever wonder why all the billboards are PI people? They make 33% if they take your claim. They make 40% if they take your claim to a hearing, or rather a trial. So if you go to a trial, they're getting 40%, right? Disability attorneys make around a little over half of that, which is only 25%. If we take you to the hearing, which is the trial in disability law, we only get 25% up to 6K. We're limited. So what's happening is don't expect a lot of disability attorneys to want to take claims to that higher appellate arena in the future. And the reason why is that if we take it to appeals council and we get it remanded back down to the ALJ, the problem is this. A lot of these judges are angry that we corrected them with the higher judge, and they basically pay out a smaller amount, which means that smaller amount that they're paying out makes the claim a total loss for the firm. So let's say that we represent somebody for 4 or 5 years throughout the process. They finally get found disabled, and then they only pay the law firm out $4,000 in the fee petition. The law firm just lost money. So it actually is going to, in the future, and what it's looking like and what the judges are doing to kind of, get back at attorneys for, having another higher judge correct them. It's creating a suck system, a tornado down to basically where the attorneys aren't making enough to represent the claimants at the higher level. Should the law be changed? Yeah, disability attorneys should be making 33%. They shouldn't have a 6K limitation. It should be around 10K. And when they get to appeals council, the whole 10K, 6K limitation, it's 6K right now, it should be 10K, should be completely removed right off the bat. So the attorney can make whatever 25% of or 33% of the back pay benefits actually is. Otherwise, they can't make money off it. And let me ask you this. Of the attorneys, right, of all these people that are out there and things like that, when you go to appeals council, they usually require, they require a brief to be written of your arguments as to why the judge made an error as to law or fact. Can any of you guys write a brief on that? Do any of you guys have, let's say brief writing skills, appellate law skills, Social Security appellate law skills? Do any of you have any talent in that? So that's kind of my point here. All right, now I'm switching topics real quick, and then I'm going to actually end this because I got to do some more tax stuff to get everything finished up. Here's kind of the bottom line, and I just want to see. So here's kind of the bottom line. So I had the vaccine. I'm not getting political at all with the whole vaccine thing because it's not a political thing. The vaccine existed with Trump. It's now with Biden. They have no idea what all the long-term effects of it are. But the bottom line is people are taking it because they don't want to get the coronavirus. And that makes sense. I understand that. First time I took it, shot in the arm, whole left side of my body was in pain, but it wasn't that big of a deal. I'm not going to whine about it. Second time I took it, I was having a hard time moving my arm. It took 3 days and then went away for the most part. I noticed for a couple of weeks thereafter, I was getting lightheaded issues. I was getting basically difficulty with remembering names, remembering things that I've said a million times. I noticed a bit of neuropathy in my legs where if I'd been sitting for an hour, I'd stand up and my legs felt like I'd been sitting for 8 hours. So I noticed some things that I want to make you guys aware of. I went to the emergency room today because it had kind of gotten to a pinnacle where I was sleeping and not recovering. So I don't know exactly what this is from, but it directly correlates to the timeline of me getting the second vaccine. I don't know how it will affect you guys. I don't know what ultimately will come from it. But the bottom line is this. I haven't felt super duper good after taking it. First 3 days, I was miserable because I had a lot of pain and couldn't really move my arm that well. And then basically a couple of weeks thereafter, I'm still not feeling super great. Now, with that said, I meet with a lot of disabled people who have immune systems that are totally and completely destroyed, or they're compromised, or whatever word you want to use. For that reason, I went and got it. But I will say this, you need to check with your doctor to see if it's a good fit for you. And it's kind of one of those things where you just, yeah, so he did whine about it. I went through a lot of it, but, and I was cool. But the only reason I even went into the hospital today was that I woke up and I couldn't even really move my back that well. I was sweating a lot and I was just feeling really weird all the time. A lot of people back in the day would say, oh, I felt like I was running on, one of my cylinders wasn't running, like on an engine. What it felt like a chemical imbalance, just like things were not adding up. And when I'd move my arm, it would tingle and things like that. So I'm just giving you guys a heads up. I'll do a more in detail video, give you more medical, terms related to what I'm feeling and things like that. But I have not been doing super duper amazingly well with it. That's not to say that you won't. Everybody else in my family, my dad had a little bit of an issue, but everybody else in my family is doing totally fine with it. But I would, before getting it, maybe talk to your doctor, see if there's anything that they've come up with new journal entries, new publications that say, hey, this maybe wouldn't be good for this type of person. Because, here's the other thing, guys. hacking the body is very difficult because everybody's genetically different, right? If you take somebody from an island and somebody from, mass-produced California, bottom line is you've got two very different genetic systems. Hacking the body system to prevent it from getting a cold, that's tough. So what I would proffer to you is this. Maybe talk to your doctor to see what new journal entries have been created, what new publications have come out, what new stuff exists to say, hey, for this type of person, it's maybe not the best idea. For this type of person, it should be totally fine. Just ask a doctor because they're more likely to be up on it than anybody else. I am not a medical degree related person. I'm a Juris Doctorate. I'm a master's in business. I'm not an MD. I'm not a specialty in medical in any way. But these are the things that I've experienced. It put me in the emergency room today because everything was not working as it should be. And I wasn't recovering as sleeping and waking up. I was waking up just as tired as I'd fallen asleep. I'm getting more sleep than I've ever gotten because it just haven't been functioning as well. And I thought that would be the fix. Shove gummy bear vitamins and, gummy vitamins or whatever. Shove as many of those down my throat, do stretching exercises, eat better food, get more sleep. I did all of that. And it just seemed to keep getting worse and worse. They did a blood test. Everything came out fine. But none of this stuff was going on until I took the vaccine. The second vaccine specifically was a problem. And then my father let me know he was also having issues with it. So point is, genetically, maybe they'll figure something out. The point is, they're always modifying these drugs as they come out. The one that they first released, I'm sure is not the same as the one that they're releasing right now. Just maybe check with the doctor before you go get it because the problem inherent with this is that they haven't had enough time to test it. And we are all the mass test sample. And the bottom line is, if something's going to pop up, it could either pop up in a week, it could either pop up in a year, it could pop up in 30 years. So, anyways, guys, I'm super tired. I got to work on accounting stuff for the taxes and get everything kind of rolled together. Have an absolutely, absolutely wonderful night. I know we didn't do a lot of phone calls. I'm sorry about that. And I missed a couple, and I'm sorry. Look, I'm sorry, guys. Also, Pissed Offerman, please contact me. Just give me a call tomorrow. This is the phone number to give me a call tomorrow. And just remember, in the morning, I'm going to be busy until around, I would say, 10:30. But just give me a call tomorrow. Oh, wait, I got to tell you guys this. This is super important. I had a judge today, and it was a tough day for me. I started out with a judge that was an artist. This woman was an artist for trick questions. And don't get me wrong. I sit there and I appreciate a very good trick question in the hearing. I love those. I love those in a big way. Don't get me wrong. But this was an artist. This judge was an artist with trick questions. Check out this question. This was good. This was really good. So the judge was asking the claimant, well, you're homeless. I understand that. Okay, blah, 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 yada, yada. So tell me, you're taking medication? Yes, I'm currently taking medication. Okay, understood. So, and you've got these impairments. And how do you get your medication? Oh, I get it from this, county medical facility, yada, yada, yada. Okay, sure. Everything checks out. Everything's fine. Everything's good. But then this judge who was a trick question artist, I went away from that hearing writing down a couple of trick questions, thinking to myself, woo, I learned something today. This judge then said to the claimant in the most sweet, relaxed voice I've ever heard from a judge, so where do you keep your diabetes medication? And boom, my heart sank. Because with diabetes-based medication, right? Different medications you can keep in different, like probiotics, you got to keep it in a fridge usually. Well, not some of the new ones. Diabetes medications, some have to be a certain temperature. Certain things you got to keep in a certain way. And as a homeless person, that's a good trick question because how do you keep your diabetes medication? Oh, you've just explained to the judge that you're homeless. You don't have a fridge. You don't have electricity. You're in an abandoned building with other people. And basically, you have no way to properly keep that medication, which you need all the time, and that's what you told the judge. That judge was an artist. I sat back and I thought to myself, boy, that's a good one. Anyways, I just wanted to pass that one along. I really, really appreciate all you guys. Thank you for all the donations. They help me continue forward, competing against these mega big box firms that largely weren't affected by anything that was going on with COVID. So I really appreciate it. You guys have a very, very, very wonderful night. I'll catch you a little bit later. I'm sorry we're doing a shorter video, but we do have some big videos coming out, and I'm really excited about it because there's more coming. There's more money coming to disability claimants and SSA recipients than ever before. They're finally starting to fix it. We don't have a lion in the White House making them fix it, but I feel like the people backing it are going to kick that whole White House group in the butt to make sure it gets passed. That's good. Anyways, guys, I'll catch you a little bit later. Have a wonderful night, and thank you so much. Bye-bye, guys. All right, bye-bye.